In 1999, the company I worked for, Ensemble Studios, released Age of Empires 2. Immediately, we began work on Age of Empires 3. Age of Empires 2 was in medieval times. It had samurais, it had knights in armor, it had Vikings, it had all kinds of awesome warriors. It's one of the most romantic, best-known times in history. The big boss says Age of Empires 3 needs to be a real-time strategy game set in the era immediately after Age of Empires 2. Now, I wasn't the lead in Age of Empires 3. It was actually my protege, Greg Street. Hi, Greg, if you're watching this. He had a problem. You see, the time period following the Middle Ages with knights in armor and English longbowmen and samurai was the Renaissance and the Enlightenment going up to the Napoleonic Wars. So the first problem he had was no one knows anything about the Renaissance and the Enlightenment. No one cares about them. They care about knights in armor. They don't care about guys in bright red uniforms walking around with muskets. Second, the classic Age of Empires game, numbers 1 and 2, starts with a single town center and a few villagers, and then you work up to build your mighty empire. Now this made sense in the original Age of Empires 1. You start in the Stone Age, and you work up to Roman times. So you start in like a little colony somewhere. It also kind of makes sense for Age of Empires 2 because it starts after the fall of Rome, so everyone is once more working their way back up from savagery. But in the year 1500, which is about when Age of Empires 2 ends, there was already large and powerful kingdoms. There was no dying off of nations, right? So Greg solved both his problems by setting the game as not the whole world, but just the colonization of the new world. This way, those powerful kingdoms are all back in the old world, listening to settlers and armies into the pristine wilderness. So you start with a single town center, you build up, then there's colonial wars, you get the native tribes, you get to have cool colonial stuff happening. So he thought this would be the right thing. This was his dream. So this way he got to have a game set from 1500 to 1800, yet keep the classic Age of Empires gameplay. In other words, he made the game his own, even though setting it in those years seemed problematic and it wasn't his idea, but he made it his game by doing that.